Hey. Hi, guys. Welcome back. All right. So, everybody, I was away for a day. I was kind of like getting my thoughts together a little bit. And obviously, just like everybody on Earth, kind of like taking in what is going on in the world around us. And I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit uplifting and positive in the sense that you notice I'm in front of Paris, and that is for a reason. It is because the world gave us someone very special who was born in Paris in 1694. So Francois Marie Arouet, which you probably know him better later on when he changed his name to Voltaire. And Voltaire is one of my own personal heroes. If you don't know his work, it's worth it to even just look up a couple of Voltaire quotes. Spectacularly brilliant person who had, I mean, God, he wrote over like 2,000 different pamphlets and books. His quotes are so poignant and so appropriate for pretty much any era of history. Such a great thinker. He was vehemently against bigotry and slavery. He was completely outspoken against, anything that took away freedom from the individual. He was very much about free speech. He was very much, at a time when, bear in mind, this was during what later became to be known as the Age of Enlightenment, or, French for the lights. And it's where a lot of great thinkers that, and we can bandy about some other names there that kind of inspired this, like Sir Isaac Newton and John Locke. But there were a lot of really great minds that were all thinking about science, and they were thinking about, freedom of religion, and they were thinking about how important it is for freedom for the individual. And all of these kind of great minds kind of were swirling around together. And there were a lot of really beautiful ideas, all of which I totally support personally, being an advocate of free speech, number one. So one of the other things about Voltaire is that he did make change. And we know him still today. In fact, we all use many of the quotes, although we don't necessarily attribute it to him anymore. But there are many of his quotes that we still use today, like, you need to tend your own garden. That's one of his. But he realized that you can make change, that public opinion matters, and that speaking about things matters, having your opinion and knowing that you have a right to have your opinion, that all matters. And so with that in mind, because I'm not political, by the way, I couldn't enjoy the left or the right party. I just, like, I don't subscribe to a religion. I stand for myself. So this isn't a political statement, but it is important that me, as a human being, has a right to an opinion. And it doesn't mean anybody needs to hear my opinion, and I don't need anybody to agree or disagree with me. But I want it on record that what's going on is nuts. And I don't support the things that are going on. And I think it's important because I support, one of the other things Voltaire is accredited with saying is, I don't need to agree with you, but I support your right to have your opinion. And so with that in mind, I want everybody to know you're all very welcome here on my channel, in my world. I hope everybody will actually, though, speak whatever their opinion is about the madness that we can all see happening, because it's very obvious. And I want to go ahead before we get into the storytelling here, which we'll shift into, fiction in just a moment. But there's a couple, I mean, we could go on and on about great Voltaire quotes, but there is one that this is attributed to him. It says, "Those who can make you believe in absurdities can make you commit atrocities." And I think that's a pretty important thing to remember right now. So with that in mind, I want to shift over. And well, before I do that, let me use one more of his here. If you want to know who controls you, look at who you're not allowed to criticize. That's another amazing quote that stands the test of time. So I'm just saying this simply because, although I'm a fictional storyteller, I am also a 45-year-old tax-paying citizen of the United States of America. And as an American, I have to say something and have it on record, because it is important. And if Voltaire could say the things that needed to be said, then I should too. So with that in mind, let's look for the light. All right. Good way to start. We have the world. We have the Two of Coins. We have the Two of Cups. This is beautiful. This starts us out with the concept that what is perhaps one of the most important things at any point in the world, what is it that us humans do really, really well? We do love really, really well. And if we were going to try to find balance, where does balance begin? It probably begins with ourselves. It begins with our relationships. Now, this is talking about a romantic love here, the one-on-one, but it asks us to also think about every other person on this earth. They have somebody that they love too. And the way they love is no different than the way we love. And families have family members that they love just like you love your own family member, and that needs to be remembered. This should come full circle. This shouldn't even be a question. Of course, every person on this earth loves someone. And if we can see everyone as ourselves, we'll understand that their life is just as valuable as ours, that their love story is just as important as ours. And I think that that's really nice to find that balance again. Doesn't matter what hat you wear, doesn't matter which side of anything you're on. All that matters is that you realize every single person on this whole huge world, and we all just share the same rock. Guess what? They have a love story too. And it's just as important and just as meaningful to them. So that's a nice way to begin. But now let's make it, let's shrink it down. We started with the world, so we had to look at it from the world view. Now we're shrinking it down. We're looking at the Two of Cups. Nice to see you guys. Wonderful to see you all. We have got the King of Swords upright. We have the Strength upright. We have the Four of Swords upright. And we have the Four of Wands. This is very much about love, isn't it? Because we have marriage right here. And with that King of Swords, that's a Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. This is somebody, we may have a divine masculine who's been thinking very heavily. Excellent. Hopefully we have masculines thinking heavily about what is right, what matters, how to handle themselves with honor. What kind of men do they want to be? What kind of a man does this particular King of Swords want to be? He wants to be strong. What does strong mean? Does strong mean might equals right? Probably not. Probably a better man knows that to find peace is the better solution, not aggression. Probably the better man would know that real strength comes from using your heart and your head combined, not, a desire just to control. So he's looking more toward the feminine on this strength card because we have a female lioness. And I would say that's a nice thing to contemplate also. Perhaps this is a great time for the divine feminine to balance out the masculine energy with a different form of strength, to maybe both send out healing for herself, but also her strength to soothe the masculine right now, to encourage the masculine to use his mind and his heart. He seems to already know this. This seems to be what's at the forefront of his mind. This seems to be important to him. And with that Four of Wands, we do have partnership here, just like we had with the Two of Cups. It makes me think maybe we have characters that are thinking a little bit more like, at the end of the day, perhaps one of the most important truths is peace, healing, love, those things. That's actually what we're here for. We're not here to carve out chunks of property. We're not here to stand there and beat our chests and piss on our territory. We're here to actually love, which is perhaps the opposite side of that, but still, connected to that. Queen of Coins. He may be looking at a divine feminine and seeing what she would bring into his world, her strength, her generosity. There is, in everything in the universe, we have balance, right? We have the north and the south poles of the earth. We have the need for the sun and the moon. Everything is about a balancing act. And when things get out of balance is when we see things go tits up, as they say in London. It's when things go nuts. And so maybe we need the prevailing balancing energy of the universe to come back and kind of Like it almost seems like the masculine in this story is calling out for it. He's our primary character. He's the one looking at the strength of the feminine and saying, I wonder if she'd take the reins for a second, or I wonder if she'd help me steer this because I'm not doing such a hot job. And that's exactly what I would say. We need more feminine energy in this world right now. We need more of the feminine touch. We need more grandmothers to give us their wisdom because we've got some masculines that are doing a piss poor job these days. We got a Knight of Cups upright. We got the Seven of Cups upright. This looks, for this fictional storytelling, look, this storyline I'm lacing with my real thoughts about the world we're in, but then putting it into, some of my commentaries, obviously, on behalf of a fictional duo. But this is still, I feel like the story still stands. It is the balance of the masculine and feminine. And the feminine is asking, then how would I bring that in? Angels, for goodness sakes, guide me. How do I bring in the feminine energy? I'm willing. I'll move forward with a loving touch. I'll move forward with a peaceful approach. But how will I offer this? He's over here wishing for it. He's wishing, but it's almost like the masculine can't ask the feminine, like, give me your strength and help me guide this right now, because he's still in silent mode as a King of Swords. He's at a point, I think, where what he needs is the feminine to maybe, offer some kind of, support, some kind of ideas, some kind of let me think, how can I best promote like balance? Now, this storyline is really about a King of Swords and a Queen of Pentacles, but she is asking the universe or the angels to guide her. How do I do this? High Priestess, Five of Cups. It's interesting because she's in a really high vibrational energy right now. So all I can say is I'm digging this storyline. I'm digging the fact that the feminine seems to be thinking about whatever role she can play in like promoting high vibration. Here's the light. She literally, quartz crystal is a pretty awesome thing. If it's under really high pressure, it can glow. And she is within that quartz crystal. Okay. And she is trying to find balance. She's asking the angels, I will move forward and try to create balance for my masculine. I have a lot to offer. How best do I do this? And it's interesting because the angels are asking her to see him as, what is he in a place of wound or loss or even sorrow over? Not looking at it as, well, he's emotionally detached, he's got to go work on himself. Instead, the angels are saying something along the lines of, look at him with compassion, look at him as a wounded individual, and consider what is the best approach to take. Not to, there's such a fine line in this, but we have the cards we have. So this is the story I must tell. This is the thing to contemplate for this particular tale. It doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong. It's all just fiction, right? But this says, if she's really going to be able to do her best as the divine feminine, to balance things out and to bring her greatest power to the table, first she must see him not as like, shame on him, he's emotionally detached, he has to fix himself, and instead say, okay, he may be in a place of empty goblets, empty cups. He may not feel like he's doing a good job, and he doesn't know how to ask for help. And he also doesn't know how, especially if he's not being seen as somebody who's doing a very good job, how do we fix that? How does the feminine help to balance it? In this case, it says by first acknowledging there's a huge lack. Okay, so what is it that he's lacking? Let's try to give him what he's lacking. Let's try to give him the support that he needs. Let's try to look at him with, what is the, how one compliment on somebody's strength can turn their whole day around. Walking up to somebody who wasn't feeling very seen, who wasn't feeling very like they're maybe embarrassed or they're hunkering down and being worse because they're already feeling like I've screwed up. Now my ego won't let me back up in reverse and course correct it. What I'm crying out for is, I need somebody to balance me. I need somebody to guide me, but I can't have you guide me with, shame and rage. Instead, it has to be, let me ask what is making them be the way they are. What is the thing that is missing? How can the feminine be sensitive to that? We have the Two of Swords. This is hard because it's asking her to basically operate in a way that she isn't. She's the feminine energy, he's the masculine energy. It doesn't matter if this is about genders. This is about looking at another soul and seeing them as, what are they hungry for? What are they missing right now? And what do they need from the feminine? What would make them feel more whole and give them the opportunity to balance? Because right now we have a significant imbalance, and she knows this, but she's having to pretend to be them for a moment, to walk in their shoes for a moment. We have the King of Wands and we have the Chariot. This is not going to be easy for her to wrap her head around. Why is the masculine operating like this? Okay, so imagine he's from a wounded space, but let's not just say, well, that's his problem, he needs to fix it. Let's realize this is a cry for help. So how do we help the masculine? And in this story, it says with the King of Wands, it doesn't matter if a character is masculine or feminine. They're all creatures of the universe, right? And then we all have the same needs. We have the need to be seen. We have the need to be loved. I mean, this is kind of hinting, because it's a King of Wands, which is always very heart-centered. His cry for the need to be like loved is at the baseline here. And if she can identify that, then it seems as if all of this is urging her to always listen to, what would our higher self have to say? Would our higher self ever encourage us to go out and battle and fight? No, our higher self is going to be like, find the solution by finding what's missing and fill in that gap. That's the thing. Where does most chaos come from? Where does most hurt come from? Where does most, why do people make terrible decisions? Because they're hurt, they're angry, they're miserable, they're hopeless. So where does that come from? And how do we fix those things instead of looking at it like just, this is somebody who's got problems? What could we instead do to say, what would maybe be the higher self saying, what would I need if I were in his shoes? And it says, okay, love, and kind of a place in the universe, to know that he's wanted, to know he has a place in the universe. So if the feminine, this is not to put all the pressure on the feminine to like fix whatever's going on here, but it is saying, if he's crying out for this at this point, but doesn't quite know how to even put it into words, this storyline is suggesting that the feminine maybe has a greater capacity right now to understand he's wanting to know if he has a place in this world. So maybe he's trying to carve one out for himself, or maybe he's making really poor decisions, trying to figure out, how am I going to be loved, and going about it in all the wrong ways. But if the feminine can see that, like, here's the underlying thing. You want to know that you have meaning, that your life matters, that you matter, that you have a place in this world. Okay. It says this is kind of the breakthrough moment on this one. That might go a long way for the feminine to better understand the masculine and how to maybe approach him, handle the situation, or just to contemplate another human. Now, I would argue every human needs the same thing, right? We all need to know that we have a place. We all need to know that our opinion matters. We all need to know that we're allowed to have a voice. We all should know that we have a reason to be here, and that we're all here for a reason together right now. I firmly do believe that. I think this collective, all of us here right now during this tumultuous time in history, we are all supposed to be here right now because we all have something to learn or help each other with or teach each other. And if we could look at it that way, we might do a lot less clash and conflict and a lot more trying to create understanding. I think it's time for intellect. I think it's time for intelligence, not for reaction. And so I like this story because it's giving, in better words than I could have found, these cards are giving us a better insight, perhaps, to just at least a different concept, at least a different way to approach, in this case, a conflict between the masculine and feminine that doesn't need to be conflict at all, because the real desire is love, always has been here. We have the devil, and there's the fear. And there's all these other things, and the vices and the problems and the fear and the jealousy and all those things that get stirred up. And of course, we have the masculine and the feminine saying that they're both, obviously subjected to those same fears all the time, right? We have Ace of Wands, we have King of Wands again, and we have the Fool. I'm so sorry, but this again puts a lot of the emphasis on the feminine to reach out to her masculine, because in this story, she happens to be the more fearless of the two. She is not the one who's questioning her value. It is the masculine questioning his. It is the masculine not knowing, how do I vocalize what I need? How do I even explain what's on my heart? I operate differently. Look, his brain is way bigger than his heart on this. It doesn't mean his heart isn't huge, but his brain is 17 times bigger than his heart, meaning he operates more up here, even though it's feels. How does he put the feels into like words when so much of what he does is up here? The feminine, maybe this is her domain. Maybe this is why we have, this is not to say the feminine is just all heart and no brains. I don't mean it that way. It just says, at least in this particular dynamic, she has some gifts that he does not possess. His gifts are every bit as necessary, though. But what he is missing is like either being recognized for what some of his gifts are and being highlighted, celebrated, told that like what he brings to the table is necessary, is valuable. She seems to be the one in the greater position of power. He brings more to the table than just passion. It's as if her saying that she wants like his heart, and that's a good thing to show. Like he needs that kind of encouragement right now, that it's good to show a softer side, that's strength. It's as if the feminine needs to tell the masculine what kind of strength she wants to see from him and celebrate that, not tell him you're not doing it right, but instead tell him your heart is your strength. When you're kind, this is a good thing. When you are everything that a masculine should be, a protector, someone who has, their opinion, but someone who does the right thing, someone who leads by example, someone who is not just seeking their own, like praise or, carving things out just for themselves, but rather someone who operates with their heart. That doesn't make them weak, that makes them strong. When you temper power with generosity, and when you temper power with, the mentality that the things I do should shape the world into something better, not something brutal, not something unkind. It feels like it's the feminine who could tell the masculine this. The feminine who could do it in a particular way where they would understand that they have a place, that what they bring to the table is amazing, but they do need a little bit of guidance. This particular masculine would behoove him in this story. I'm not saying this is how it works, but in this story, we saw 2 times that he would be probably better and happier if the feminine were able to like encourage him to lead with his heart instead of be that King of Swords. Maybe he needs somebody to tell him that wouldn't make him weak. Maybe that's what it boils down to. He needs somebody to tell him it's not weak to be kind. In fact, it's better. I like you more when you're nice. You're better. The world is better. We are better when you use your heart. That's not a sign of weakness. We have the 6 of Wands in the reverse. This could be a little bit of an obstacle, though. That 6 of Wands in the reverse, I don't know if the feminine has the confidence that she could say this to him and that would be seen, or maybe she worries, what if I don't have the right words to describe that? This is very difficult stuff to try to put into words. Like, I'm struggling in this story. How do I find the vocabulary for what the story looks like? This feels like I could understand how the feminine is like, even if she is the person in more power, she's doubting her own power, at least right now. Okay, so we have 7 of Cups sideways, because again, she's saying, how would I say this to him? Would he even hear this? Will it even make any sense? It's not going to make sense instantly. It's going to be little tiny drops of water in a bucket. It's little teeny tiny things that could go a long way to start to change things. With this Page of Pentacles, This is the first little tiny step. How is he going to hear anything that I say? How will he understand what I'm trying to get across to him? What language, if the two of us already haven't been speaking the same language exactly, then how will I find the right words to fill him in and let him know that I love him when he uses his heart, that that's what I want more of, that that's what the world needs more of, is the masculine using his heart. That's where we would celebrate the masculine. That's where we could reassure them, this is your greatest strength that you bring to the table. Your mind is beautiful, but your heart's even better when you use that. You can come up with all kinds of ideas, but if you don't govern it with your heart, your ideas can be awful and brutal, and that's not your best self. So how does she convey that? And she doubts her ability to convey that to them, to make them hear it and understand that this is really what I mean. And it says it's one little drop at a time. What does that mean, universe? How? That's a big task to put on her, right? It's a big task to put on the feminine. 5 of Swords, 6 of Pentacles, Queen of Wands. Okay, that's actually kind of amazing because it says, all right, so look at, one of my jewels fell off. That says that instead of having conflict, it is for the feminine and the masculine. Instead of, even though, and this might take great self-restraint on her part, but 5 is a number of change. So instead of being angry or frustrated or saying, why would I have to explain all this in the first place? It says, remember, anytime we are in the position of benefit, there is a moral obligation to pay attention to those weaker than yourself, or there is a moral obligation to pay attention to those who need more help than what you do. It makes you a better person when you can see that someone else is not as fortunate. It makes you stronger and better, to not to say, well, I'm superior to them. I don't mean it like that. It means that the compassion, which is perfect because the feminine is like built for that, right? So the ability to have the compassion, even though I can understand how it would be frustrating, and it's maybe already been frustrating, and they've probably made some wrong turns somewhere along the way that she's already pissed off over. And it says, as tough as this is for the feminine, not everything is all of one or all of the other. Okay. So if she can look at him and say, as much as we have had conflict, as much as there are things that I do not like that have already happened, let me see if I can also say, but there are wonderful things about this masculine. There are wonderful things that I've seen in this masculine. Is there a way to focus on that component? And to also, for her to step into her most sexy, empowered, amazing, like she has to be the more confident and believe it in herself. I know damn well that you're better than this because I've seen the good in you. And you can believe me because I'm a fucking Queen of Wands and we know what we know. Queen of Wands attitude is, I always think of her as our most, like she's empowered because she actually makes good decisions from her heart space and she stands by them. Doesn't matter if the rest of the world disagrees. What is morally correct is what she will stand by. What she genuinely believes, she will stand by. And it won't be based off of narrow-minded, bigoted viewpoints. She's a Queen of Wands upright. She doesn't doubt herself. And right now, it looks like the masculine needs a feminine that is strong enough to not doubt herself and to be able to tell him with some kind of authority, you, my love, have something to offer me. You have things that I want. You have a heart, and that's what I want from you. You don't need to doubt anything. I can tell you, you have things that are so good in you and so powerful in you. That's what I love about you. I love it when you do these things that make you kinder, more generous. I love it when we balance. I love the good that comes from you. That's what I see in you. It is okay. We've had lots of problems already, but we're going to have to shelf that and move beyond it and focus on where are the things that we did really well together. Where are the things that the masculine has done that she Like those are the reasons she chose him in the first place. For a masculine and a feminine right now, to not only get things back on track, but perhaps to help the masculine. And that is what this storyline seems to be about. The feminine keeps coming up in the power position, and the masculine is all but drowning and needs her to like anchor him and pull him back up. And right now in this story, the feminine can definitely do that. She has all the power right now to do that, and to do it in a way that doesn't put her in a position of, let me now become your mama, your teacher, your no, no, no. She's saying, just sit here beside me. Like, you definitely belong beside me. When you use your heart, that's everything that I want in a partner. That's who I want beside me. That's who I can see you as. Those are the amazing, decisions you can make. And together, we lead with our hearts and we make the world better. And we are better. But it does have to be that the feminine, at least in this story, the feminine has to be able to be confident enough to know she does have high expectations of him. She expects him to give her the best of himself. She knows he has a really good side to him. She knows he has a great heart, even if it's been buried under, like delays and too many, wrong turns and conflicts and such. She still knows that he's amazing and that he has a capacity to be amazing, but he almost needs her to remind him of those pieces of himself and encourage him to show it, because that's where she can love him and that's what he'll ultimately be respected for. What kind of a leader do you want to be? You want to be one that did good, or you want to be one that turns out to be absolute, dumpster fire? Be a good one. Lead with the heart. That feels like the best story we have ever had for like how the feminine can impact the masculine in such a positive way without usurping his own, identity, but rather encouraging the best out of him. It does say she's kind of like giving a bit of a pass on some of the things where there have been conflict in order to like give him the chance to show his better self and have her be receptive to it. Again, that puts a lot on the feminine. And let's be honest, not every masculine would want to do that. They're not going to care. They're not trying to become better. There will be those ones, but in this story, that's not who he is. He's somebody who desperately wants her to look at him with eyes that say that she loves him again. In this story, he doesn't know how to get her to look at him like that again. So he's going further and further down the wrong path, getting more lost by the minute, and wishing without being able to figure out the words to ask her, what would I have to do to make you look at me like that again? What would I have to do to make you love me? And she's over here, like being asked by the universe, like, you're in the stronger position. So if you would like to help him up, you can do it. You've got the power in this scenario and you know it. Deep down, she knows it. This is kind of like that call to, like, the feminines of the world have a lot more power than they think they do to actually guide and be a counterpart. And even like, like we're all each other's rock at some point in time, and roles reverse. Sometimes we need someone to be our rock. Sometimes we're going to be theirs. In this story, it just happens to be about the masculine needs the feminine to be his rock, bring him back, reel him back in to like the best version of who he can be, should be, will be. But it is actually her who ultimately can be the thing that reels him back with kindness. I don't know. It's actually kind of beautiful to see this. It's a really different message on here, and I think it's very timely. I think it's very necessary. Let me just ask, masculine, do you have anything in particular that you would want to like say to the feminine right now? Hierophant upright, 3 of Pentacles sideways. There is some kind of energy here where probably the reason he's so uncomfortable at this moment in time, because that King of Swords, I know he's upright, but the King of Swords, he's not particularly comfortable, right? He's sitting there not knowing what to think with his head or his heart on the tip of a sword. Does that look very comfortable? No. So it's interesting because he's come to the same conclusion, but again, it's like, I know what would need to happen. I also know who I like, the story I wish I could be a part of. I just don't really know how to get that back. I don't know how to reverse. My ego won't let me reverse, even though I know it's my ego saying I don't know what to do, even though I know what I wish could happen. He needs help. The masculine needs help in this story right now. Bear in mind, this could be same sex couple, reverse gender roles. It doesn't matter. It is about counterparts. It is about, in this case, I mean, it was very obvious, right? We had feminine, we had masculine. So that's why I read it in that context. But I would say this is his cry for help. This is not the time to condemn. This is the time to say, whoa, let me help. Like, we need some other energy in here. We need to change, and we can't do it through like punishment, shrieking, shaming. We actually have to do it with like, let me bring in my energy. Let me bring in some different ideas. Let me bring in my convictions that this can get better. With that Queen of Wands upright, that I'm so glad that came out in this storyline, and that twice we saw him as a King of Wands. This looks like we have a resolution. Let me ask universe, in the event that these two get to that point where the feminine steps in with her power, she starts to not take the lead, but like I said, she is his rock that anchors him and brings him back. The universe is like, amen. That's where we finally get that King of Wands. We bring him back front and center. We bring him into his heart space. Now he can make better decisions. Now there's his true strength, right? You want to be a king of the jungle? That's not by being mean. That's no way to handle it. Might doesn't make right. This is not strong to call yourself the king of the jungle, the law of the jungle. That's bullshit. Real strength comes with tempered intellect and using your heart. It's to really lead and be respected. You don't do that with fear. You don't do it by being the meanest kid on the block. That's not true strength. So if the feminine can reel him back and remind him, connect him to his heart again, the universe is like, amen. That's where we get the actual King of Wands back. That's where we get a genuinely strong character who is loving. And frankly, all of this keeps saying he needs, there's a song, I think it's by the Nationals, I Need My Girl. I don't know. This storyline it had some nice components to it. All right, you guys. Thank you, everyone. It's really great to see you all. Sending you guys lots of love. Oh, Melissa, hi, honey. Yeah, Melissa J, happy almost birthday, babe. So you will just go ahead and it's always in our members videos, okay? So in the members videos that I post every Monday, that's where I leave the comments on, and then you can just drop me a note there in the members video, and I always review that before I get to Monday. So I don't usually read comments until Monday before I'm about to do the members video. But yeah, Melissa J, if you're having problems finding it though, let me help. And I've got paper here. Let me just make a little note for you, okay? So that I don't lose you. Okay, there we go. And I just got to remember what date this is going to be for, because it's going to be for next Monday. All right, you guys. Thank you, everybody. It's good to see you all. All right. I'm going to bounce on over to Tarot Dog. I will see you guys there in just a moment. Great to see you all. Bye for the moment.